Devil
24
Fruits,
Devil
the
Fruits?
ultimate power system in One Piece, and today we're going to talk about every single old zone type Devil Fruits. Now, this category of fruits allows the user to transform into an animal, grants as well.
Yeah.
And at number 1, we have a pretty straightforward transformation. Dalton, the king of the Sakura Kingdom, uses his Ushi Ushi no Mi model bison to turn into a bison. Kaku of CP9, on the other hand, uses his fruit to turn into a giraffe. Now,
this video is
transformation to enhance his swordsmanship.
This is
Not
actually
really
a decent
why
swordsman.
It's categorized as a cow fruit though, but as you'll see, a few of the fruits don't really make sense. Now, what's better than turning into a cow? Well, turning into a human being. Chopper is a reindeer who
Chopper is so cute.
control human-aided, or if the SBS is to be believed, they might gain enlightenment, but in Chopper's case, he gained the ability to walk, talk, and have human intellect.
Yeah.
On the other hand, the former fleet admiral of the
We did a similar video reaction back in the day, but it was outdated. This one is updated, so...
Sengoku uses the Daibutsu fruit to transform into a giant golden Buddha, making for a very intimidating presence on the battlefield. And sticking with Japanese mythology, Onimaru is a Komagitsune, a type of mythical fox. However, this is unrelated to his devil fruit. The Onyudo fruit allows Onimaru to transform into Onyudo, a type of giant monk yokai, and like Chopper, this fruit grants Onimaru the ability to speak. And well, what do you know? We're only 6 fruits in and we've already gotten to our main character. Now, for years, Oda led us to believe that Luffy Hito no Mi model Nika. This fruit, for instance, grants Luffy the powers of the sun god Nika, nicknamed the Toon Force by the fandom, which are seemingly only limited by Luffy's own imagination, bending reality to his will. And the most powerful human type devil fruit is of course none other than the subscriber no Mi, eaten by you, dear viewer, after you destroy the subscribe button below this video. Next we have...
I like that the writer kind of like put the viewers
for super fast flight. His hybrid form makes
cool
Pell
design.
look like Horus, the falcon-headed god of Egyptian mythology. The jury is still out on whether falcons can actually withstand nuclear weapons though, like Pell apparently did at the end of the Alabasta arc. One of the coolest fruits in the entire series is Marco's Phoenix fruit. Whitebeard's first division commander Marco allow him to heal himself
the blue flames.
and others. And interestingly enough, for some reason, Big News Morgans, who always keeps up his hybrid albatross form, cannot fly. Nice to see. So good thing he has those news coups to deliver the papers for him. Moving on to men's best friend and all the doggos, starting with Lasso of Baroque Works, who is not a dog who ate a cannon fruit. He's actually a cannon who was fed the Inu no Mi model Dachshund. This character was actually the very first instance of learning that inanimate objects like a cannon could be fed devil fruits. Chaka is the other zone guardian of Alabasta. His Chakal hybrid form makes him look like the Egyptian god Anubis, who also has a Chakal for a head. Jabra of CP9 uses his devil fruit to transform into a giant powerful wolf. In addition, he loves using trickery and storytelling to try and fool his victims, calling upon the many fairy tales which feature a big bad wolf, such as the 3 Little Piggies or Little Red Riding Hood. And we have yet another inanimate object with a devil fruit. Bambuku is a teapot who forms her appearance to appear as any other person she wants to. Pretty convenient. Minji no Makami, the protector deity of Wano, who also possesses ice-based powers. Lucci, the powerhouse of ZP9, uses his leopard transformation to gain immense strength, dexterity, and agility. Meanwhile, Who's Who, a former member of CP9, fits right in with the Beast Pirates with his saber-toothed tiger zone. Like many of his crewmates,
even though I prefer dogs, the design on the cats it looks better.
Ancient devil fruit is based on an already extinct animal. Which now brings us to 2 elephant fruits. Yet another inanimate object with a devil fruit power is Fang Freed, a sword who can transform into an extreme light of the cuteness spectrum is Jack, one of Kaido's all-stars, who is a fishman who's definitely the best category of animals to turn into. Dinosaurs.
Probably.
Now don't get it, those are 2 very different dinosaurs. Interestingly enough, like all of the other dinosaur fruits to come on this list, this fruit is categorized as the Ryu fruit, which means dinosaur transformation from one of the Tobi Roppo. The Pteranodon fruit of the All-Star King is modeled after—
I think One Piece is the only anime to have like dinosaurs and cannons turning into dogs and humans with unstoppable abilities. all-in-one anime.
A flying dinosaur significantly larger than the pterodactyl. Now, the most significant power that King's Fruit gives him is flight. However, Oda's mastery of biology teaches us that they are also able to use their large crests and beaks in a slingshot effect to utilize ranged attacks as well, apparently. Meanwhile, Queen, the last of Kaido's commanders we're covering, has a Brachiosaurus fruit, and yet again, we got a science lesson from Oda that states that Brachiosauruses can apparently launch their long necks and tail from the rest of their body to become a sort of snake-like creature. And
that is not true, is it? If that's true, then I don't know.
Snake-like creature. And the manga makes this very clear that this is not one of Queen's many cybernetic enhancements, but a natural-born ability of Brachiosauruses. So I guess learned something new here. Then we have Ulti, one of the Flying Six, who has a very fitting dinosaur zone transformation as well. The Pachycephalosaurus literally means thick-headed lizard, boasting a skull several times thicker than any other dinosaur. Makes sense for the most stubborn and hard-headed of Kaido's crew, I guess. And the last of our dinosaur fruits is Sasaki's model Triceratops. And during Frankie's fight against the Flying Six, we get yet another paleontology lesson when we learn that Triceratops frills can actually spin around like a propeller, enabling them to fly? Which brings me to snakes. Also,
that's gotta be made up.
Also quite terrifying. Here we have Marigold's King Cobra fruit, as well as Sandersonia's Anaconda fruit. Both of these boa sisters have snake transformations, which is, and yet another Hebi no Mi model from mythology, is
again,
the
those references.
fruit held by, well, Orochi. This member of the Kurozumi clan really lucked out on finding a devil fruit that shared. Down jailers all have what are referred to as awaken zones. They end up losing their higher function. The fruit that we've gotten is stronger. Doc Q's horse, who ate a Pegasus mythical zone to gain wings. I'm gonna guess that he'd get along pretty great with Pierre. And we are just getting started.
Zones are basically like the animal rights
category. Now, these fruits allow users to turn into an element as well as generate seemingly fire. A prominent marine and rival to Luffy. As his name suggests, he is able to turn into smoke, and really he was the perfect first opponent to demonstrate this incredibly useful devil fruit power. Meanwhile, the first warlord that the Straw Hats faced off against was Crocodile, owner of the Sand Logia. Not only could Crocodile use his sand to release powerful attacks like Espada, but he also had the ability to drain the moisture out of anything, rendering his opponents into dry husks. However, Luffy found that Crocodile was weak to water, point in Dressrosa, when Doflamingo offered it as a prize in the Colosseum to bait Luffy. In this tournament, Luffy and Ace's other brother Sabo finally ended up claiming the fruits we've seen that can clearly impact seawater, despite the sea being a devil fruit user's weakness. By freezing the surface of the ocean, he's able to bicycle from island to island. Pretty convenient. He can also freeze opponents inside and out, and they can be shattered to pieces if not carefully heated up. Blackbeard, meanwhile, has one of the most unusual Logias, to the point where we're wondering if it's not actually a zone fruit. They suck matter into a black hole. Blackbeard is also a lot more vulnerable to pain and can nullify the fruit powers of other devil fruit users that he touches. Borsalino, another marine admiral, uses the Pika Pika no Mi, the light Logia fruit. Using his devil fruit, he can deliver light speed kicks and fly from island to island faster than any ship.
Teleport as well, right?
Dr. Vegapunk also used this fruit as the basis for developing the Pacifista's beam lasers. And Sakazuki, the current fleet admiral, wields the Magma fruit. Its immense power burns much harder than the fire fruit, which made it possible for him to kill Ace during the Marineford War. This is one of the most offensively powerful fruits in the entire series. Oh, and then we have Caribou, another very unique Logia fruit user like Blackbeard, whose fruit doesn't allow the typical Logia rules. His swamp doesn't seem to be able to generate limitless amounts of muck, but he does have a seemingly limitless storage inside of himself. Inside of this swampy pocket dimension, he can store plenty of meat or even mermaids. Caesar Clown's Gas fruit has dominion over an entire state of matter. He's able to create various gases, usually poisonous ones, but he can also remove the oxygen in a given area to suffocate opponents. Monet, a member of the Doflamingo family, has
These are also scary.
Fruit. This is a fairly straightforward Logia power. After Monet's apparent death, we haven't seen a new Snow user appear quite yet. One of the Marine's newest admirals, Aramaki, showed monstrous strength with his forest Logia fruit, Kidam Shanks. With his fruit, he can fly long distances on a flat flower, sap the strength from opponents, and summon a practical army of plants
I love this
to
ability.
fight for him. Which now brings us to the Paramecia category of devil fruits that includes, well, everything else. This is a mixed bag of powers that are left up to Oda Sensei's imagination, but usually fall into two types of categories. There are Paramecias which manipulate the user's body in some way, or Paramecia fruits that manipulate the environment or other people in some way. Starting with Buggy, who was the very first devil fruit user that we met in the series beside Luffy. And now that we know that Luffy actually has a mythical zone fruit, Buggy is technically the very first his body at will. This makes him immune to cutting attacks. His separated body parts are also able to fly, provided that his feet are staying on the ground. The Sube Sube no Mi makes Alvida's body extremely smooth and slippery. Attacks simply slide off of this ally of Buggy's. Mr. 5 of Baroque Works can turn any part of his body into a bomb. He usually uses boogers, but for an advanced technique, he can also breathe into the chambers of a revolver for long-distance explosive shots. Miss Valentine can make herself lightweight to float in the air on her umbrella, or increase her weight to dive bomb on opponents. Next, we have a Straw Hat. Nico Robin's Hana Hana no Mi, while being named the flower fruit, doesn't have much to do with the actual flower. Instead, she blooms or blossoms parts of her body anywhere she chooses to. So pre-time skip, she'd usually
honestly, Oda has such a big imagination. Like, to come up with right, it's been going for ages, but I still love
sprout
that.
arms
The imagination.
on her opponents and break their backs with her clutch technique. However, after the time skip, she's demonstrated the ability to create clones of herself, make giant limbs, and even undergo her demonio transformation. Mr. 3 or Galdino uses the Wax fruit to generate huge quantities of wax. The most utility that this has seen in the series is through making keys, as well as making venom-resistant armor for Luffy during Impel Down. Now, Wapol's fruit is pretty weird. The Munch fruit allows him to eat anything and then incorporate the material into his own body. He does this with stone and metal to fortify himself, and more horrifyingly, eats his own subordinates to combine them into that of anyone that he's touched with his right hand, making him a master of his body into blades. This of course made him the perfect opponent for Zoro, who had to learn how to cut steel in order to defeat Das Bones. Miss Doublefinger's Spike fruit allows sharp spikes to protrude from any part of her body. Iron Cage Hina's epithet is very fitting as well. Her Ori Ori no Mi or Bind fruit lets her conjure black iron bars to trap criminals. Bellamy's Spring fruit allows him to turn his limbs into springs, which gives him the ability to bounce super quickly around the battlefield. Doflamingo's String fruit is one of the most versatile devil fruits we've seen in the entire series. Doflamingo is an example of a character who truly mastered his devil fruit powers. He could use his internal organs, and that is just the start of it, because this is not getting into super OP techniques like the Birdcage. In addition, the Ito Ito no Mi was the first example we saw of a Paramecia fruit awakening, which allowed Doflamingo to turn his environment into strings as well. Foxy's Noro Noro no Mi allowed him to fire a beam that slows down anything it touches, which, even though looked goofy, actually kinda powerful. Bruno of ZP9 is able to make a door on any surface and escape to a sort of pocket dimension. This of course makes him a great asset as a Cypher Pole agent, as Hifa, another agent of CP9, was given a bubble devil fruit by Spandam that a berry fruit can turn him into balls. Captain Shu's rust fruit can cause metallic items to rust very quickly, to the detriment of Zoro's sword, and Captain Shiringuru's wheels fruit lets him turn his arms and legs into wheels. We also have Perona's Hollow fruit that allows her to summon ghosts called negative hollows, which make anyone they pass through negative. Plus, she can also leave her body to float around in her shadows from their bodies and then place them inside zombies that are under his control. The Clear fruit that was first owned by Absalom and now by Shiryu allows the user him to repel anything, whether that's an attack, a person, or even an intangible. Uses his fruit to create a metallic replacement. With his Devil Fruit Awakening, he can also make his opponents magnetic as well. And Luffy's other rival, Trafalgar Law, has the Ope Ope no Mi, which lets him create a room in which he can then manipulate just about any places with objects and attack opponents internally.
He can literally
this fruit
do
also
anything.
has the so-called immortality surgery.
That's
Meanwhile,
so strong.
Capone Beige's Castle Fruit turns him into a castle man. He can shrink down his entire crew crew who can then act as an army inside of him, as well as transform into a full-size castle with tank treads to other people's life force, allowing damage done to himself to be inflicted on his body parts.
Oh, that's like the first musical one.
Anyone who can hear his music can be harmed by his sound waves. Then we have Boa Hancock's Love fruit, which allows her to turn anyone who's attracted to her into stone. One of the most badass Paramecia fruits is probably that of former Warden of Impel Down, Magellan, who has the Venom fruit, which is a super interesting Paramecia. It's very similar to a Logia that he can conjure seemingly limitless amounts of toxic goo, but he can't turn himself into it. It does have a terrible side effect too though, of giving him terrible stomach hormones to do all sorts of things really. The most common usages of this fruit are to change their own sex or that of others, or give an adrenaline boost to those that need it so they can overcome fatigue and keep fighting. Inazuma, also from the Revolutionary Army,
you know, there's some really useless ones. There's some really useless ones and there's some really powerful ones.
A fruit with the power to destroy the world. Because this fruit creates powerful earthquakes, but its power can also be used locally to the user's fist, which allows him to turn his entire body into diamonds. And another Whitebeard ally who only appeared very briefly, Blamenco, uses a pocket fruit to develop pockets all across his body. On the marine side, Vice Admiral Tsu
talking about useless,
of the weirdest devil fruits in the entire series. Her Wash fruit allows her to literally clean. So we have Shiki the Golden Lion, who may not have appeared in the One Piece.
Like if she did that to him
far, but he and his fruit are both canon, despite mostly appearing in the movie Strong World. His Fuafua no Mi allows him to levitate himself as well as any other non-living object. At the same time, the Fishman Thunder Decan also has a peculiar devil fruit as well. His Mark fruit allows him to mark someone with his hands, and from that point on, any object that he touches or throws with that hand will seek the target until it hits them or an obstacle. Kind of perfect for disguising people. However, it would be nice if he had people to disguise who would last more than 5 minutes without blowing their cover. Oh yeah, Sugar. This in the entire series.
Okay.
You see, Sugar can turn anyone she touches into a living toy with her hobby fruit. She can then create a contract with this toy that they are scary. Everyone immediately forgets that the person turned into a toy ever existed in the first place. Baby 5, another Doflamingo family member, can turn any part of her body into any weapon she chooses with her arms fruit. Presumably because turning them into actual arms was already taken by Robin. Buffalo's Spin fruit allows him to spin any part of his body like a propeller, which he then uses to fly. And as you'll notice, we're really just getting started on the Don Quixote family fruits as well. His
kind of reminds me of that dinosaur one that can spin
crew has a lot of devil fruit users. Treble, the grossest character in One Piece, I think, is such a low-quality individual that his devil fruit name in Japanese is literally the Beta no Mi. This translates literally into the sticky fruit, which produces massive quantities of this sticky mucus. He can use it as projectiles, and even worse, a cloak made out of it to give the appearance of a much larger person than he actually is. And this mucus is also extremely flammable. Next up, we have Admiral Fujitora, who has a gravity devil fruit powerful enough to rain.
If his clothing is made out of it, wouldn't you just be able to set him on fire?
Than he actually is. And this mucus is also extremely flammable. Next up, we have Admiral Fujitora, who has a gravity devil fruit powerful enough to rain down meteors on his opponents, send flying for an offensive assault as well. He can also manipulate the shapes of this barrier to Leo from the Tontadas has the Stitch fruit, which allows him to saw just about any walls. And quite confusingly, she can also fire giant projectile whales from her eyes. Jolla's art fruit lets her transform things into works of art. Often, her works will resemble famous art pieces from the real world, such as Brooke turning into Edward, the worst fruits in the entire series. Because it allows someone to literally wear the user like a jacket, at which
that's
point the
messed
user
up.
can then pilot their body, which...
Oh.
Gladius's pop-up fruit allows him to expand and rupture any part of his body in an explosion, which leaves himself unharmed. He can also cause inorganic objects he touches to explode as well. Now, his power is very similar to the Bomb fruit with some minor differences. Senor Pink, the most hard-boiled member of the Doflamingo family, uses the Swim fruit to swim through matter as if it were water. Interestingly enough, this power is now used by the Seraphim modeled after Jimbei. And speaking of powers very similar to those of the Baroque work members,
you can just swim through stuff
as if it were water. Interestingly enough, this power is now used by the Seraphim modeled after Jimbei. And speaking of powers very similar to those of the Baroque work members, the Tauntaun fruit is extremely similar to Miss Valentine's Kilo fruit. The only difference here is it can increase its weight far beyond Miss Valentine's 10,000.
It's just like a stronger version.
Another executive of the Don Quixote family, Diamante, uses the Ripple fruit to make freely. Depending on how much stone he has available, he can basically become an entire island, absolutely massive, hiding his real body within the stone. And so during their loss to come to life. Rip Ryonosuke, you were a real one. Doflamingo's brother Rosinante has the
that ability.
Or the Calm.
There used to be like a cartoon that I used to watch when I was younger. The person could draw stuff and it would come alive.
Real one. Doflamingo's brother Rosinante has the Nagi no Mi, or the Calm fruit. This allows him to create a bubble of complete silence where nothing can be heard. Now this seems like a dig for stealth. And the ability of the Tontada Princess Mon Cherie, the Heal fruit, is one of the only powers in the entire story that can actually heal any physical injury. Then we are series. With it, she can cut parts of a soul into an inanimate object to
like putting up your enemies as your clothes, cutting off the shadows of the people.
For herself, but also for other people. So for the Yonko's protection. But she can also take it forcefully from anyone who's afraid of her. Meanwhile, Brulee's mirror fruit lets her travel through a mirror world, a sort of parallel dimension that connects seemingly to every mirror in the world. Other people can also travel into the mirror world provided that they're touching Brulee. She can also use her mirror powers to turn into a mirror image of an opponent as well as to reflect attacks. Perospero, Big Mom's eldest son, uses his candy fruit to create and manipulate his biscuit fruit to create super hard biscuit soldiers. He can control an entire army of them as well as wear them as armor.
I love that it's like all sweets related.
Well, you guessed it, Let's doesn't involve food, by the way. His Baku no Mi allows him to control books, and this manifests in a lot of different ways. He can fly by standing on floating books and back to all the food.
That's so creative.
fruit is a lot like Galette's, but with cream instead of butter. Smoothie, another sweet commander, has the Ring fruit, which allows her to juice just about anything, including giraffes. Pudding's Memo no Mi allows her to freely manipulate memories. When she uses her powers, people's memories will appear like film reels, which she can then cut and edit. Katakuri, of course, made the perfect opponent for Luffy during Whole Cake 2. Is stretchy, but it could also do a whole lot of things that Luffy's body couldn't, since he was able to generate large quantities of mochi. And unlike other Paramecia, one with the properties of a Logia fruit. The key difference here seems to be that mochi is a man-made object rather than a naturally occurring element. A full halberd-wielding genie to fight for him. Charlotte Oven uses
like rubbing the lantern
fruit to heat up his own body. Through touch, he can then transfer the heat to opponents or objects. Just like Aokiji, Oven has one of those rare fruits that have been seen to directly affect the sea when he boiled part of the ocean to attack the Sun Pirates. Streusen ate the Cook fruit and is able to turn any inanimate object into edible food. Charlotte Nushi can combine with his siblings using his Fuse fruit, which now brings us Nomi, or Push fruit, to push or mold the ground as if it were made of clay. Bello Betty's Pum fruit encourages and rallies other people to awaken their full potential to fight. A perfect power for a revolutionary.
I should not wearing a jacket.
Otama's Kibi no Mi allows her to pull dango from her cheeks, and when she feeds that to an animal, they make that animal completely loyal to Tama's command for 1 month. This power notably also works on Smile Devil fruit users. This power is largely inspired by the Momotaro myth, of course, wherein the hero feeds Kibi dango to 3 animals that then help him on his quest. Kuzuki Odin's wife Toki travels to the present, and most importantly, she can also send other people into the future as well. Shinobu's Ripe has been seen to do this with huge amount of water, and even Kaido's Boro Breath. And then Blackbeard's crewmates recently have revealed some very new Devil Fruit powers too. However, Muscle Fruit seems to give him immense physical strength. We see him lifting an entire mountain. Blackbeard Sniper Von Augur can use the Warp Fruit to teleport himself or other objects. Doc Q uses a Disease Fruit to spread illness, or in the Heart Pirate's case, to spread mass sex changes due to a pun on the words malady and the lady. And the most recent Devil Fruit revealed as of this writing is Vegapunk's Brain Fruit, which lets him store an unlimited amount of knowledge outside of his body. However, we're still not done, because there are a handful of powers that we know come from Devil Fruits, but we still haven't gotten confirmation on
so many different
name. For example,
powers,
Jewelry
man.
Bonnie's fruit allows her to manipulate the ages of herself and other raw strength. San Juan Wolf, a giant of Blackbeard's crew, has a fruit that seems to grow his body size even more than it already has. And Lafitte also has an unknown devil fruit that is likely the source of his wings. Karasu, the revolutionary, also has an unnamed devil fruit, because unlike a zone transformation that allows him to turn into one big raven, he can turn into an entire flock of ravens that can also be separated and communicate. And then we have Uta. Unlike other One Piece movie characters, and that includes her devil fruit then, the Sing Sing fruit. Using her voice, Uta can lull people asleep and bring them into an illusory world that is under her control.